morning, everyone. Once again, I'm Juan Jimenez, co-founder and CEO of AccurKardia. Today is a great day for me, coming back to campus after 15 years ago. I was walking around these halls and always give me good memories thinking about those days. Before we continue, we built AccurKardia building upon the call to action from Dr. Berger. We are building this technology to improve patient outcomes, improve health equity, and make this available globally. Today, I am going to discuss about the use of remote automated diagnostics and value-based care, particularly in the cardiology field. But before we deep dive into this topic, let me give you some background about AccurKardia. AccurKardia is an ECG-led diagnostics company leveraging ECG as a broad biomarker to save millions of lives at a planetary scale. A really bold goal, but if goals are not bold, they are not worth pursuing, right? Our technology, as I mentioned, is device agnostic. We can ingest data for multiple clinical grade and consumer grade devices. It has been validated according to some of the publicly available databases and clinical research for internal or external reporting, including a 1,000 patient study conducted by one of the leading telecardiology practices in the US. We provide results in near real time. We need an initial intake of 10 seconds, and we can update our models and output for every subsequent millisecond. Initially, our technology can detect up to 40 different arrhythmias, but even though our first FDA clearance provides for automated diagnosis for 13, and our products are integrated with current clinical workflows, are reimbursable by most payers, including Medicare. And our API-driven approach provides us to give this technology and make it available for hardware or software manufacturing, software developers, so they can enhance their own products. AccurECG, which was the FDA-cleared software platform released a few months ago, it can ingest data from wet electrode devices, from clinical devices such as Holters, event monitors, and mobile cardiac telemetry devices, and we can perform automated analysis for 13 different heart rhythms, perform heart rate measurements, as well as detection of supraventricular and ventricular ectopic beats. In this use case that I'm highlighting here, we can help out the cardiac technician in the analysis of the ECG recording coming from Holters, for example, and we can reduce by up to 70% the time spent by a technician or a nurse in the analysis of a long-duration ECG, giving freeing resources to give direct patient care. As I mentioned before, this product was validated according to the gold standard for this kind of devices using publicly available databases, as well as a 1,000 patient clinical study conducted by one of the leading cardiology practices in the US, based here in New York. But let me deep dive into the topic of discussion today. Value-based care has been addressed by many academics and economists and healthcare professionals, but I kind of like Professor Michael Porter's definition of value-based care, who is an economist based at Harvard University, in which it centers the definition of value-based care around the patient. Sometimes we tend to focus the conversation on value-based care around the payer, how we can save money to the payers, either government-run payment system or private payers. But I believe value-based care should be at the center, patients should be at the center of any value-based care program by providing the best possible care for patients at the most efficient cost. We can provide the best overall well-being for society as well for the payers themselves. But some of the most common examples of value-based care value-based care at work nowadays is around primary care, in which some of these capitated models are based around a primary care physician that become the gatekeeper for more specialized care or additional treatment. Around 25% of all payments in Medicare Advantage are through capitated models. But sometimes the benefits of value-based care are many, but people tend to focus on the negative side. And I have highlighted here some of the challenges I see worth looking at. One, that technology and the admin burden is too much for healthcare system, physicians, and providers. In a survey conducted by Bain Consulting, up to 80% of primary care physicians are interested into value-based care payment models. The problem that most of them mention that the technology and the admin barrier as the main burden for their adoption. The lack of patience. Most of these programs require 2, 3, 4, 5 years of bandwidth, and most companies, more payers, more systems are based on calendar year, fiscal year, performance evaluation, and bonus schemes. And we believe that sometimes there is not enough patience for these programs to reap all the benefits. As we see in healthcare and in patient care, sometimes we focus on the symptoms that I call the tip of the iceberg, and we see the problems on value-based care models instead of looking at the root causes of it. And misalignment of incentives, as I mentioned before, sometimes the different evaluation incentives as well as the value-based care system are not aligned, therefore creating issues in long-term success of this program. And finally, there are not enough measures to quantify some of these programs besides the economic benefit. But besides all the progress made in primary care and value-based care programs in primary care, I believe the next push should be in the cardiovascular space. 1 of every 4 Americans dies of a cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease today continues to be the leading cause of death in America. The cost of cardiovascular care in the US, it's more than the GDP of many countries, around $200 billion per year. Therefore, if we want to add scale to value-based care programs, we believe that cardiovascular disease should be at the forefront. Some value-based care initiatives that have been implemented nowadays are around, have been implemented into other programs, or they have been implemented in general practice, are around prevention mechanisms that sometimes add significant value, but sometimes there are not enough measurements to quantify the results. Cost containment measures such as gatekeeping, management through prescription drugs in the pharma benefit management, or using step therapy. Standardization of clinical processes have made significant impact in different areas in care, and I believe we should continue doing so. And finally, care coordination and access are key to improve health equity and bring the benefits of value-based care to different populations. But I'd like to go deeper in early detection, because I believe early detection can help bridge the gap in cardiovascular care. I believe ECG is at the cusp of becoming the next important biomarker. ECGs are valuable in cardiovascular care and beyond. As I mentioned in a previous slide, the magnitude of the cardiovascular problem, it's huge. And based on that, we should get the benefits of the ECG as a broad biomarker. Second, ECGs are unique, and it can provide insights to the individual patient's overall health and disease management. And finally, compared to other biomarkers that are broadly used, like blood or DNA, ECGs are cheap, affordable, easy to obtain, and can be remotely and continuously monitored. And an ECG should be inserted in any cardiovascular disease value-based care programs, and that's what we are looking after. ECGs has been used for more than 100 years, and it's the standard operating procedure for managing arrhythmias as well as other cardiovascular disease. More than 100 million ECGs are generated in the US every year, and this number is growing exponentially, mostly by the inflection of devices from Holter, patches, event monitors, as well as consumer wearables such as watches, biofabrics, and even toilet seats. Let me give an example, building on what Dr. Mehta mentioned a few presentations ago. Stroke is a huge problem in overall healthcare and cardiovascular care. I want to highlight a recent collaboration that we announced with Lucem Health for a stroke prevention program that can be added as a value-based care tool for population management. In this example, Lucem Health is using different methodologies for risk scoring, flagging in the EHR system patients with a higher risk for stroke. Once those patients are flagged, the ECGs are pulled from the EHR and sent to AccurKardia for analysis. AccurKardia then perform analysis and identify undiagnosed patients with atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter. It is well documented that if patients with atrial fibrillation and flutter are well treated, we can reduce stroke risk by up to 67% by using drug therapies as blood thinners or ablation therapy. As part of this program that was put in place, Lucem estimated that for each 100,000 patients under this program, we can highlight an additional 1,000 patients that were untreated for AFib and flutter and prescribing the blood thinners, as well as adding an additional $1.8 million in additional revenues for healthcare providers by treating patients that were not otherwise treated.